The theme, tradition versus modern day methods, isn't a theme exclusive to Sakura Quest, the latest episode of the series. It is something that is constantly tackled in a variety of different manga, anime, and other forms of literature throughout Japan, or other different, states, nations, whatever. It is something that is constantly brought up, because it is a very interesting topic, and it's a very relevant topic, because there's a lot of things throughout, society to where sometimes people say you need to stick with tradition, don't try to change things that, obviously been working for so long, or some say, hey, you need to, become modern, you need to change things, you need to, fit with the times. There's constantly this argument with tradition versus modern day methods, and that's kind of what this episode of Sakura Quest wanted to tackle, along with a couple of other themes that is something very relevant to Japan. But before I get into those other themes, I want to talk about tradition versus modern methods of society. So, one of the big things about this was showing that there is a traditional art in this town. And the traditional art is wood carving. And it's something that definitely would seem traditional, something that has been passed down for many generations, something that many respect, and it's obviously protected by the government from what we found out in this episode of Sakura Quest. So there's a lot of respect and honor / pride put on this profession. And so anyone that is a part of this profession, they're doing it because they love it, but also because of tradition and how it was passed down to them. And in all honesty, it might not be the best way to probably make money or have a stable job, but anyone that becomes a wood carver is pretty much people that have passion for it and really love what they're doing. And so it really puts in perspective of kind of what wood carvers are and kind of showing how they stick to the traditional way. Now, throughout this episode, you see our main characters trying to kind of advertise wood carving in the town, and since they really don't know much about wood carving, like it was just recently like introduced to them in the town or whatever, like they know some like the basics or whatever, or kind of what they slightly do, they don't know the fundamentals, they don't know a lot of the nitty-gritty details of the profession, which is kind of understandable, because I mean obviously someone that is a novice or someone that doesn't really do wood carving wouldn't know all the individual details of something, and that's just how it is or how it goes for anything in this world. Obviously, you don't know everything about how probably blankets are made, or you don't know how, maybe lights are made complete, like all of the components and stuff that are put in them. I mean, even if, you think you do, you probably don't know every single step or everything that is, put into making something like that. And that's kind of what was showing here, that they were trying to advertise something that they didn't know nothing about, which is also another ongoing theme throughout Sakura Quest. You obviously can't be someone that can advertise the town or whatever, or someone of, great importance in the town if you don't know nothing about it. It's kind of like this. You become the CEO of a major company, okay, a corporation, and you know nothing about how to run this company. You don't know anything about it. I mean, you kind of know what it's about, but you don't really know the fundamentals. You don't know what really made this company. You don't know anything really about it, and so you're trying to change things. You're trying to make these extreme changes or advertise this company, but you know nothing about it at all. And that's kind of what this was trying to showcase, showing that with our characters trying to advertise wood carving, they were trampling upon tradition and honor that all of these original wood carvers have. Because if someone just walks in and says, hey, we're going to advertise you and all that, we're going to do so-and-so this, try to make it modern and all that to fit with the times, and if they don't really know what they're doing, or they're kind of disgracing what makes wood carving so traditional, obviously that's going to hurt you and you're going to be very upset about that. And that's kind of the really big theme of this episode, showcasing that if you're going to make changes, you need to understand what you're representing, what you're advertising, and that's kind of what the episode is focusing on. Don't try to talk about something if you know nothing about it. Like, if you don't know anything about this certain product or a certain item or whatever that's being made, and you're trying to advertise it, obviously you shouldn't do it in the first place, because you need to do your research, you need to know a little bit more, and that's kind of where our characters failed at. They didn't know anything about it, even though they thought it was cool, which it is cool. It's a very interesting thing to do. They just don't know anything about it, so they don't have the right to try to make changes when they don't really even know anything about it. Now, besides all of that, though, one of the other things about this episode was showcasing that, once again, that our characters, they really need to take the time to study the town, because that is one thing that they need to do. They need to learn about the town, what makes this town what it is, and why people care about it or whatever, before they can do anything. Because if you don't know anything about the town, you're not going to be able to advertise it or gain people that want to come in and be tourists or whatever. That's not going to happen. You need to make sure you get the civilians a part of the town, the townsfolk, a part of it. You need to get them interested. You need to, learn about them. You need to understand what they do and how they do these certain things. But also, if you're going to try to make changes and advertise these things, you need to have a fine line between tradition and modern methods. What I'm getting at is that you try to keep with tradition, but change it enough to where it doesn't trample upon that tradition and just desecrate what makes that so amazing. And that is kind of what they were trying to do, but they obviously failed quite a lot throughout this episode. Now, besides all of those themes, there was another ongoing theme in this episode that is very relevant to the modern days of Japan, and I've even made a couple videos on this in recent weeks. I've talked about, how there's the animator shortage, to how, they're not getting paid well, like certain animators are not getting paid at all. There's just no way they can afford to eat or sleep in anywhere comfortable because of the pay they're getting. I made a couple of videos on this, and one of the characters in this episode, Sanai, hopefully I'm saying her name right, she shows that she has a problem within herself. What she's saying is that I'm just a cog. I'm just a gear inside of this big, endless machine. And even if I was to die, even if I was to never show up again, I'm irrelevant, because someone will replace me, and I just didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. That's kind of what she was trying to say when she was thinking about her past and why she moved away. Because even if she was good at her job, even if she was just excellent, like insanely good at her job, she could easily be replaced. And so, when you think about that, when you view your own self in that light, and you think about all the accomplishments you've done, and then you realize that someone could easily just replace you, that just hits your personality, hits your persona, everything, hits everything about you, and it just hurts your pride. You're like, I'm not really that important. I'm replaceable. Nothing I do is really that important at all. I mean, I can just get replaced like that. They could fire me anytime. They don't really care about me. And that's kind of what she was thinking, like, I was working so hard. I was working to the point to where I was keeling over, hurting my health, and going to the hospital. And then I would even leave the hospital early just to go to work, but then I found out someone was already there and replaced me pretty much doing my job like it was nothing, and there was just no problem. Obviously, that's going to hurt your pride, and that's kind of what that was showcasing, that she was going so far this extra mile to impress her bosses, to help out the clients, to meet deadlines, but when she wasn't there, it didn't matter because she was already replaced, and she realized she is nothing. She matters. She doesn't matter, and that was sad. It was a very sad, sad feeling, because I can relate with that. I really can, because it reminds me of my job when I was working at Tenko, when I was doing welding and stuff. I worked in a factory, and that instantly, I understand that feeling like you're a cog, feeling like you're a machine, and like you're replaceable, like you're not important at all. I understand that feeling completely. I know how that feeling is. And when I saw her thinking that, I'm like, honestly, I felt like that. I felt like I was pointless, useless, and I was very depressed. And I can understand her position as a person of why she probably wanted to move away or do something else, and so she's right now seeking something that only she can do, not something someone else can do if she's not there. So I do like that. I do like that aspect of this episode, trying to throw in these many different themes that are very relevant in Japan and other parts of the world as well, when it comes to tradition and modern day society, to also, just the workplace in Japan and how many are willing to just kill themselves just to continue working, but then they realize they're really not that important in the grand scheme of things. Just very good stuff with this episode, and I'm glad I got to sit down and watch it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.